Sudan. Civil war Sudan is currently facing the world's worst humanitarian crisis with over 18 million people suffering from extreme hunger and 500,000 children starving to death. This is happening because Sudan has been in a brutal civil war since April 15, 2023. The fighting is mainly between two powerful military groups that used to run the country together. On one side, there's the Sudanese armed forces, led by the head of the official army, and on the other side, there is a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces. This war started because of a power struggle after a coup in 2021. Both groups were supposed to merge into one national army, but neither side trusted. The other tensions exploded when the RSF attacked key sites in the capital Khartoum trying to take control. What followed was full on, not just in Khartoum but across Sudan, especially in Darfur where the RSF has been accused of committing ethnic massacres. This new war has pulled in international powers too. Egypt is backing the SAF, while the UAE and Chad are believed to be supporting the RSF as of 2025, the war is still going with no end in sight. There were some peace talks like the Jeddah Declaration, but they failed. More than 8.8 million people have been forced to flee their homes and over 3.5 million have left the country entirely. Hospitals are closed, food and medicine are running out, and aid groups can't safely get in because convoys are being looted. Meanwhile, both sides are spreading lies online using fake videos and AI to sway public opinion. The Rwanda-Congo War. In 1994, the Rwandan genocide took place when Hutu extremists killed an estimated 500,000 Tutsis. In just 100 days afterward, many of those responsible fled into Congo, where they regrouped into armed factions like the FDLRA group that still operates in the region. To this day, the Tutsi-led Rwandan government, which took power after the genocide, pursued them into Congolese territory. These events started the tensions fueling the current conflict in 2022. Rwanda was accused of directly backing the M23 rebel group, which is made up mostly of Congolese Tutsis. This was confirmed by UN and US reports, which state that Rwanda troops have crossed into Congo and fought alongside M23 despite official denials. The Rwandan government, however, claims its military is in Congolese territory to defend against the FDLR, the same group of Hutu mentioned earlier, M23. On the other hand, claims to protect Tutsis in Congo, but has been accused of massacres, child soldier recruitment, and attacks on aid operations. Since the renewed fighting began, the situation has spiraled into a near-constant war. Entire cities have fallen to rebels. Over 400,000 people were displaced in early 2025 alone, and thousands have been killed or injured. International peace efforts have failed, slowing down of the AMOC, the Atlantic Meridian Overturning Circulation, a key ocean current system that helps regulate the global climate, is weakening fast, and scientists warn it's heading toward a potential collapse. This process keeps Europe relatively mild and stable, but it's now being disrupted by global warming. If the AMOC were to collapse entirely, the effects would be massive. Europe could face temperature drops of 5 to 15 degrees Celsius. Within decades, sea levels along the Atlantic coast could rise by up to 70 centimeters. And rainfall patterns in places like the Amazon could reverse, turning wet seasons into dry ones. Other areas, especially in the southern hemisphere, would get even hot. This wouldn't be a slow change. It could happen rapidly once we hit a climate tipping point, with shifts occurring over just a few decades. The last time something like this happened was about 12,900 years ago, triggering a sudden 300-year cold snap. Scientists don't agree on exactly when this might happen, but most studies point to a date that isn't too far in the future. Haiti's situation. Haiti is in total crisis. The country has been spiraling since 2018 when protests broke out over a hike in fuel prices, but things got much worse after President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated in 2021. Since then, political power has collapsed and armed gangs have taken over most of the capital, Port-au-Prince. The interim Prime Minister Ariel Henry tried to bring in foreign police from Kenya to help fight gang violence, but while he was out of the country, negotiating gangs blocked his return and launched coordinated attacks. Jails were stormed, thousands of inmates escaped, and key infrastructure like ports, airports, hospitals, and even the presidential palace came under attack. The gangs continue to fight among themselves, and nearly half the population is going hungry. Over 1.6 million are on the edge of famine, and more than 160,000 people have fled their homes in the capital alone. The situation is still really bad with regular massacres. Just from January to March 2025, 1,600 people were killed and 800 were Unfortunately, the whole situation isn't being properly covered in mainstream media, and many people don't even know about it. Fortunately, though, we have platforms like Ground News. Today's sponsor, which I'm proud to support, Ground News, is especially useful in cases like this article about France's president saying that making Haiti pay for its independence was unjust. The platform gives you a summary based on 72 sources, helping provide an objective view, and it shows the political lean of each outlet. In this example, 63% of the sources were center-leaning, making it a potential blind spot for both left and right-leaning readers. It also shows how different sides frame the same story. For instance, this left-leaning source describes France's actions as one of history's greatest heists, while this right-leaning source focuses on the diplomatic side, highlighting a joint Franco-Haitian commission to examine the painful past. One of my favorite features is the blind spot feed, which shows stories that are underreported by one side of the political spectrum. Ground News doesn't tell you what to think. They just bring together news from around the world so you can make up your own mind. Head over to groundnews/TPE or scan my QR code to get 40% off the same top-tier Vantage plan I use for unlimited access. Thanks again to Ground News for sponsoring this video. Europe's 80% bug declined for nearly 30 years. A small group of German insect scientists quietly tracked insect populations in nature reserves unaware. They were documenting one of the most alarming environmental disasters in modern Europe, led by Dr. Martin Sorg. The Krefeld Entomological Society found that the amount of flying insects had declined by 75% between 1989 and 2016. The implications are really bad. Insects pollinate 80% of wild plants and feed 60% of bird species. They decompose organic matter, recycle nutrients, and support entire food chains. Without them, ecosystems would crumble. Scientists link the decline to intense farming practices, especially the widespread use of pesticides like neonicotinoids. Many farmers, however, worry about the economic costs of reducing chemicals. Without enough support or consumer demand, it would be hard to compete against other countries who keep using these pesticides, keeping costs down. Myanmar civil war. In 2021, the Myanmar military known as the TAR seized power in a coup, overthrowing the elected government and arresting civilian leaders. The coup, of course, sparked massive protests, which were met with violent crackdowns, leading many civilians to take up arms. In response, the exiled elected government formed the National Unity Government, representing anti-coup forces and calling for the re-establishment of a democratic state. They allied with long-standing ethnic armed groups that have fought the military for decades, and together they opposed the military junta, now operating under the name State Administration Council. Fighting has since spread across the country, turning into a full-scale civil war. Ethnic militias and newly formed People's Defense Forces, composed of regular civilians who want to fight back, have launched coordinated attacks, taking control of significant territory. But the military has responded with airstrikes, massacres, and scorched earth tactics. In April 2023, a single airstrike on a gathering and sagging region reportedly killed over 160 civilians. They famously used the Four Cuts doctrine, which consists of cutting off food funds, intelligence, and recruits to starve opposition areas, often leading to mass displacement. As of now, the conflict has displaced millions of people and shows no signs of ending. China and Russia continue to support the junta diplomatically and militarily. The whole situation was worsened by the huge earthquake in March 2025, which directly killed up to 5,300 people and injured up to 11,400 people. Balkan situation. Since late 2024, a wave of protests has started across parts of the Balkans and nearby countries in what many are calling the Balkan Spring. It started in Serbia and Slovakia, then spread to North Macedonia, Turkey, Greece, Montenegro, and even beyond, including Hungary, Georgia, and Romania. The protests have been mostly student-led as people got fed up with corruption and authoritarianism. In Serbia, the movement exploded after a newly renovated train station in Novi Sad collapsed, killing 16 people. An incident blamed on corruption. Students holding a silent tribute were attacked by government-affiliated thugs, which only fueled the outrage. Slogans like "corruption kills" and "a bloody hand" became protest symbols. In Slovakia, protests erupted after Prime Minister Robert Fico visited Moscow, cut military aid to Ukraine, and pushed controversial judicial reforms, leading many to chant, "Slovakia is Europe in Turkey." People hit the streets after opposition leader and Istanbul mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu was arrested in what many saw as a political takedown. In North Macedonia, 59 people died in a nightclub fire caused by poor safety standards, sparking mass protests similar to those in Serbia. Meanwhile, in Greece, the memory of the deadly 2023 Tempe train crash where 57 people died was reignited during its second anniversary, so memorial rallies were held. Protesters across borders are clearly inspired by each other, even sharing slogans and symbols like Pikachu, which started in Turkey and spread to Serbia. Some governments have started to crack under the pressure. Serbia's prime minister resigned, and discussions of snap elections have begun in Slovakia. Miambo Woodlands fire. Every single day, the equivalent of around 140 full-size football fields of mamba, woodland, burns down across southern Africa, wiping out animal habitats, killing wildlife, and pushing entire ecosystems to the brink. These woodlands aren't just any forest, they form the largest continuous stretch of woodland in Africa, spanning countries like Tanzania, Congo, and Zambia, and they're home to most of the continent's wildlife, including critically endangered species. Despite this, the Miamba receives almost no global attention or mainstream media coverage, and it gets little to no consistent government funding. As these ecosystems are cleared for agriculture or burned for charcoal, the animals that depend on them are left homeless or dead, and significant amounts of greenhouse gases get released. Also, these dry forests support over 65 million people who rely on them for timber, fuel, wood food, honey, and medicine. Despite their importance, Miamba woodlands are often ignored, overshadowed by more iconic tropical rainforests like the Amazon and Congo. If nothing changes, Africa could lose a massive portion of its biodiversity. Silently oppression of Uyghurs in China. In China's Xinjiang region, the Uyghurs, a Muslim ethnic minority, are facing a campaign of repression by the Chinese government. This includes mass surveillance, forced detention, and religious restrictions. Over 1 million Uyghurs have been sent to detention centers for reasons as simple as praying, growing a beard, or having contact with people abroad. Inside these camps, people report being tortured, forced to renounce their religion, and subjected to political propaganda. It's so bad that many disappear without their families ever being told where they are. Outside the camps, surveillance is also constant. UI core. Homes are monitored not just by cameras, but by Han Chinese citizens placed there by the government under a program called Unite as one family. Are also being forced to work in factories, often with no pay, either inside the camps or in faraway cities. Separated from their families, women are being targeted too, with widespread reports of forced sterilizations and birth control procedures as part of a campaign to limit the Uyghur population. The goal appears to be to remove them by forcing them to assimilate to the Han majority culture, which is why some call it cultural genocide. International watchdog and human rights groups believe that what's happening may amount to crimes against humanity, but with strict control over information coming out of the region, much of this remains hidden from the world. If you like this video, subscribe for similar ones or join my Discord to suggest another.